Happy Friday, everyone. Here we are with lesson 84. It's on page 437 of your math book, and the topic is Order of Operations Part 2. So we've already learned the first part of Order of Operations, but the only thing we're going to do a little differently is just add in the exponent and the square root piece, because you've been doing number 1, 3, and 4, but now we just need to make sure we know how to add in the exponents and square root part. So to save time on videos, I went ahead and put the order of operations, and this is a set law that you have to follow. You have to go in this order or your answer will be wrong. So the first thing you're going to look for in every problem is what is in parentheses. Anything that is in parentheses, you're going to do very first. After you take care of your parentheses, then you're going to look for any exponents or square roots. If there are any of those, go ahead and take care of those. And then you're going to be looking for multiplication or division signs. Now, in some problems, there are both of these. And if that's the case, you just start at the left side of the problem, just like you're reading a sentence, and you go to the right side of the problem. So if division sign comes first, then you do it. If the multiplication sign comes secondly, then you do it secondly. So you're moving left to right, and I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a little bit. The fourth step is addition and or subtraction, and this is just like if you have multiple multiplication and division problems. If you have multiple addition and subtraction problems, then again, you move left to right, just like you're reading a sentence. And I put a little sentence over here just to help you remember. So, please is for parentheses, excuse is for exponents, my dear is for multiplication and division, Aunt Sally is for addition and subtraction. So now let's move on to our first example. So for this, again, I am looking for parentheses first. And I don't see any parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and skip down to exponents and square roots. And I also don't see any of those. So now I'm going to skip down to multiplication and division. Now I do see a division sign and I see a multiplication sign. So I'm going to handle those things first. And I'm just going to circle that just so it kind of sticks out to you. So I'm going to take care of these two numbers. So 0.5 divided by 0.5 is going to give me 1. So I'm finished with that part. Then 0.5 times 0.5 is going to give me 0.25. So now I'm finished with that part. But if you look and read in between the lines, I still have this subtraction sign that is going to come down. And let me just move that 0.25 down a little bit so I don't have to rewrite it later. Okay, and I still have this addition sign that's going to be pulled down. And then I still have this leftover 0.5 that is going to be pulled down. And that's all that I have left because the rest of it has been crossed out and taken care of. So now my last step is to do addition and or subtraction. So I have addition and then I have subtraction. So again, because I have multiple addition and subtraction signs, I'm just going to move from left to right. So I'm going to do 0.5 plus 1 first. And I get 1.5. So I'm done with that part. And then I'm going to move down my subtraction sign and my 0.25. And I'm going to finish my problem. So I have 1.5 minus 0.25. And when I do that, I get 1.25 as my answer. And that's it. So you just follow the order of operations to solve these problems. It's really tempting to want to just start at the beginning and work your way down the line, but I warn you, do not do that, because you will get the wrong answer every time. You have to go in this order to get the correct answer. So now let's do example number 2. So the first thing I'm looking for is parentheses. So I do have some parentheses, but there's only numbers in them. So it doesn't actually tell me to do anything with those numbers. So I'm going to actually skip parentheses because those numbers just stay where they are. Because there's no multiplication sign or subtraction sign. There's no signs that are with those numbers. Okay, so now I'm going to look for exponents. And I don't see any exponents either. So now I'm going to skip down to number 3, which is multiply or divide. Now, hopefully you guys remember from the beginning of the year that when you have a number in parentheses and it is right beside another number, what that actually means is multiply. So I can just write it like this so I understand it better. Or actually, better yet, I'll just use a multiplication sign. So it's not confusing. And then my addition sign is going to come down. And then same thing here, when I have a number in the parentheses that is right beside another number, I'm going to multiply those two. It's one of the many ways that we can write multiply. So what that actually means is 2 times 6. So now that I actually know what everything represents, now I can actually start multiplying, since that is step number 3. So 2 times 10 is 20. Addition sign comes down. And then 2 times 6 is 12. So now I can finish my problem. So 20 plus 12 equals 32. And that is my answer. Okay, so now I'm going to flip over to the back and we're going to do some more examples, and I'll post these notes online. So this one, I'm looking for parentheses because that's my step number 1, and I do have some parentheses in this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of 4 minus 3.2. And when I do that, I get 0.8. So I can cross that part out because I don't need it anymore. Okay, my division sign comes down. And then my 4 squared comes down. Okay, so I've taken care of my parentheses. Now I'm looking for exponents because exponents is step 2. And I do have an exponent. I have 4 to the 2nd power. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. So 4 to the 2nd power, remember what that actually means is 4 times 4. So that equals 16. Then I'm going to pull down my division sign. And I'm going to pull down my 0.8. And now I can do step number 3, which is divide. And there are no addition or subtraction signs, so after I divide these two numbers, then I'm finished. And I'll show you the math behind this just to give you extra practice on dividing decimals. So 0.8 divided by 16, so it's going to be that setup because I'm dividing the 0.8, so it goes inside the box. And 16 is my divisor, so it goes outside the box. So I'm going to move my decimal up. 16 cannot go into 0, so I put a 0. 16 cannot go into 0.8, so I put another 0 over that 8. But guess what? That decimal gives me permission to add another 0. So then can 16 go into 80? Yes. The answer is 5 times. So 5 times 16 actually gives me 80. So then I'm left with no remainder. So my answer to that problem is 0.05. Now let's do one more example together, and this one is a little odd because it does not follow the rules of order of operations. But you've seen these type of problems on tests and quizzes and other homework before, so I'll just go ahead and touch on it. So let's say that I have, let's see, 1 times 2 times 3. And then I have, let's say, 2 plus 5 on the bottom. Okay, so right here, this one's just a little bit strange. There's obviously no parentheses, no exponents, but there is multiplication and division. So technically it kind of does follow order of operations. It's just an odd way of looking at it. Because I am going to multiply these numbers first, but I'm not going to actually divide quite yet, even though there's a division line right there. So when I have problems like this, I need to go ahead and solve my numerator, and then I solve my denominator, and then I divide or I write it as a fraction. So I have to take care of this part first. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Then I have to take care of my denominator. So 2 plus 5 is 7. Now that is obviously a fraction that cannot reduce, so that is just my answer. So see how that doesn't really follow order of operations, because yes, I am multiplying before I'm adding, but I'm not going to be dividing anything even though there's a division line right there. So those type problems follow kind of their own rules. So you have to always do the numerator first, and then you have to do the denominator, and then you worry about that division line. If it can reduce, reduce it. If it can't, then just leave it. And that will conclude lesson 84. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I will post the key to the homework soon so you can grade your homework and see where you messed up. And you guys have a great weekend.